Right now on the National Weather Desk, Marathon Monday. The weather runners in today's Boston Marathon will face on the course.
Still great sunshine for both runners and spectators.
Assessing the damage, relentless rain turns Hawaiian roads into rivers.
It was in the middle of my door. It was at my chest.
Prescribed burn. Texas officials take steps to prevent future wildfires.
Your flame behaviors are a lot better at this time of year.
Record wind. A look back at the 200-plus mile-per-hour gusts atop Mount Washington, New Hampshire.
And what went from a typically bad storm went to a truly, truly extreme event.
Cicada invasion. Billions of bugs are coming. When and where? And are you ready?
So they're all going to be coming up out of the ground at the same time or close to it.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Steve Rudin from WJLA in Washington, D.C. This week begins with another threat of severe storms, this time across much of the plains. The greatest risk is in Nebraska and Kansas this evening and overnight. Large hail, damaging winds, and even a few tornadoes are possible. A slight risk of storm stretches from South Dakota to Texas. There's also a risk for the mid-Atlantic from North Carolina all the way to southern Maryland. Severe storms will not impact New England today, thankfully. Thousands will hit the pavement for the 128th running of the Boston Marathon. The 26.2-mile race starts in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, and ends near the Boston Public Library in Copley Square. Providence meteorologist Christina Ernie says the weather should be warm for runners and great for spectators.
It is a great day to run the Boston Marathon, the 128th running, and we're starting off with great sunshine. Temperatures heading into the 50s just before lunchtime. We might see a few mid and high level clouds pop up as we approach the afternoon, but still great sunshine for both runners and spectators. Low humidity heading towards the mid 60s in the city of Boston today. So great sunshine and some great conditions this afternoon, though. Just a slight breeze developing, but those mid 60s are pleasant. I'm meteorologist Christina Ernie for the National Weather Desk.
Looking back for the marathon has been somewhat of an unpredictable weather forecast. In 2012, the high was 87 degrees. 6 years ago, it was only 38 at the start of the race with drenching rain and gusty winds. Snow fell at least 5 times, most recently in 1967. The hottest temperature was in 1905 at 100 degrees. Coming up in about 12 minutes, we'll have tips on how you can train for a marathon even when the weather is not so great. The National Weather Service just released its most recent temperature and rainfall outlook for the United States. Meteorologist David Glenn breaks it down for us.
As we go through the month of April, it is still a transitional month, especially with temperature, where winter's chill still tries to invade parts of the U.S. as we all start to warm up. And that'll be the case over the next 6 to 10 days. The latest Climate Prediction Center update still shows a little bit of chill trying to come back, especially over portions of the upper parts of the Midwest, the upper plains, and even as far south as parts of the Tennessee Valley, especially by late in around the 20th to 22nd. So still a little bit of a risk there. We'll have to keep an eye on temperatures, especially for those early blooming plants. Now, where temperatures going to be above average? Well, the usual spots. Myrtle Beach, down around Miami, including the Gulf coastal states, and of course, out across the western parts of the U.S. Now, along with temperatures, rainfall following a similar pattern, where it's going to be a little bit above average for the southeast. Those April showers continue. So from the Tennessee Valley southward to the Gulf Coast, above average trends are there. Where it's going to be a little below average is out across the west, where many areas still remain in a bit of a drought. You'll notice a little bit of green, though, over the desert southwest, and that's some improvement, especially near Albuquerque, that part of New Mexico, the Four Corners region. They're under that extreme to exceptional drought, so a little bit of relief there, but also areas around Montana, they need it even more.
And now to the Aloha State and the island of Kauai, where more than a foot of rain fell recently and caused the Wailea River to swell from 3 feet to nearly 23 feet in just 6 hours. Ben Gutierrez has more, starting with a crane that toppled at a construction site.
This is what Wailua resident Josh McLaughlin saw at 1 in the morning. His trucks and vehicles nearly completely submerged.
It was up to here. It was the middle of my door. It was at my chest. And I was like, it's already gone. There's no saving it.
Even the cup holders in the middle console are still filled with water. He says there was no roar of a flash flood. The water from the river just rose and flowed through his yard.
I got woken up on my phone. my friend, AJ called me and was like, hey, we're getting flooded. And I ran downstairs and it was already too late,
His neighbor operates a kayak rental company. McLaughlin says the kayaks had floated everywhere.
All these kayaks were spread across the whole yard.
They didn't float away only because the gates to the property were closed. McLaughlin considers himself lucky because his home is built on stilts.
Anything that was below 4 feet, it's either gone or ruined.
It's only been a month since wildfires devastated portions of the Texas Panhandle. Now the National Park Service is taking steps to try to prevent yet another outbreak. Drew Powell shows us how prescribed burns can help protect neighborhoods from out-of-control flames.
Aaron Klee is a squad boss on the Alpine Hotshots crew based out of Rocky Mountain, Colorado. The crew is helping the National Park Service getting areas prepped that are outlined for prescribed burns between Lake Meredith and neighborhoods in Fritch.
Every year we're required to do 2 weeks of critical training. So in doing this work on the prescribed fire and helping them put in lines, will help our crew start to build cohesion, go through basic safety and training.
To get the area prepared and be able to execute those burns, that's what we're working on right now.
The Windy Deuce Fire burned more than 144,000 acres, forcing a number of evacuations. The National Park Service says it will have additional resources on standby ready to go should weather become a factor while conducting the prescribed burns.
When we implement these prescribed fires, we have a number of resources, not just our local resources, but we also bring in resources and cooperators from outside the area. So we want to make sure that the fire stays where we want it to stay, and we have actually more than what we truly think we need.
It is this time of year, just before green up starts, to get those prescribed burns executed, and then it really gives an opportunity for the plant life that's there to recuperate after the burn. Your flame behaviors are a lot better at this time of year.
Friday marked 90 years since record-setting wind gust at 231 miles per hour was measured at Mount Washington, New Hampshire. Meteorologist Emily Santom has more about the history and what it's like on Mount Washington these days.
Brian Fitzgerald is the Director of Education for the Mount Washington Observatory, an assistant running the co-op weather station located in North Conway, New Hampshire. Now, Fitzgerald said several factors led up to the big wind event that occurred in the early afternoon of April 12th in 1934.
This massive low pressure system came into the region, and what went from a typically bad storm went to a truly, truly extreme event that lasted the course of a couple days and ultimately resulted in the fastest wind speed measured directly by human beings on planet Earth.
The observers on the summit at the time used an anemometer that was relatively new, a custom design known as the heated number 2, the second anemometer built for the observatory. It was a bronze-cast instrument with copper on the inside that is still on the mountain to this day, just safely located inside the museum. So what's it like on the summit of Mount Washington today? To my right is a photo of Charlie Peachy, a weather observer on the summit, attempting to walk in high winds of 147 miles per hour back on February 29th of this year.
So I think that 147 mile per hour gust was by far the craziest weather I've had here. And I had to go outside to get the precipitation can that morning. Unfortunately, I was by myself that shift. So it was pretty extreme between having to go outside and get the precip can. And I decided not to that morning because the winds were gusting way too high to be able to walk on a sheet of ice.
Now, this powerful wind gust of 231 miles per hour held the record for the strongest gust on planet Earth for 62 years. Before Tropical Cyclone Olivia rocked Australia in April of 1996, stealing the mountain's spotlight for a new record of 253 miles per hour. Peachy also went on to add that the bunker on the summit, which houses the observers to this day, is built to sustain 300+ mile per hour winds.
Check this out. A hiker in Yosemite National Park caught an avalanche on camera. It happened near the famous Half Dome when the hiker heard a noise. It sounded like a bomb, he said. He then saw snow roaring down the side of the mountain. As spring temperatures rise, the snowpack starts to melt, triggering events like this. Yet another reason why park visitors have to be careful at all times. Coming up on the National Weather Desk, we head to West Virginia to find out why Canaan Valley is one of the coldest places in the eastern United States and explain why the coldest time of day can sometimes be right after sunrise. We're back after this.
I'm meteorologist Emily Santum. Here's a look at the northeast highs for today. Temperatures will vary in the upper 50s towards northern New England, heading on down to around 76 degrees for Atlantic City down in New Jersey, 78 for New York, just 2 degrees shy of 80 degrees to start off your Monday. We'll see some clouds begin to move in towards this afternoon. Just around lunchtime, we're looking at clouds in northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont. Temperatures will reside in the 60s, 75 for New York, and we have some rain moving through towards the afternoon.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We're going to be seeing a slight chance for an early morning shower, mainly just to the south side of Maryland. But overall, we should see some improvements throughout the day. A couple thunderstorms could pop up again to the south of Baltimore along the D.C. line, but they'll continue to push down to the south along the cold front. And as we head through your Tuesday, it looks like we're mostly dry until we get into later. We're talking Monday temperatures still very warm. We're likely going to reach near the 80s and once again on Tuesday.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast. Highs for the day. It looks like we're going to see a warm one out there. Nashville, 85 degrees, 84 in Atlanta, 88 in Raleigh. We're looking at Charleston, 84 degrees, 88 in Tampa, 81 West Palm. It looks like we're going to continue to see plenty of sunshine throughout the day. High pressure over Georgia will continue to keep us nice and clear. A high thin wedge of cloud cover over Texas and parts of Arkansas and Oklahoma. But it looks like we're going to stay dry for the next few days until we get a little weather maker pushing in late week.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A gorgeous rainbow captured during the weekend as it snowed Saturday along the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina. The rainbow appeared when temperatures were around or above freezing and rain mixed with this snow. And speaking of rainbows, here's a view of one in front of Utah's Wellsville Mountains and another one, a small but brilliant segment in Asheville.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
This past winter has been very good to Northern California's Shasta Lake, in less than 10 feet from capacity last year, a jump from 10 feet from last year, I should say. As Sam Chimente explains, that's great news for businesses around the lake.
The water brings the life. And while it might be April, it feels like summertime here at Shasta Lake. For Jones Valley Resort, the activity is really expected to crank up. The party's really going to get going on Mother's Day weekend.
Last time you and me, we talked, we have a conversation, we were 3.8 miles deep in the lake from this position that we are right now. Remember, it used to look like Mars.
2023's plentiful water year has carried over into 2024 at Shasta Lake. At Jones Valley, a portion of the lake that is typically the last to see high water levels, their optimism comes with just one look at their reservations.
Our operations definitely went all the way up. We sold out 2023. We are ready to sold out 2024. And we even have people already very interested in booking 2025.
Shasta Lake has come a long way, very fast.
The best season is going to be this one. Absolutely. People can get enough of Shasta Lake. You know, when the lake is like this, we all benefit.
As mentioned earlier, the weather for today's Boston Marathon is going to be pretty nice. But what's the best way to prepare for long runs when the weather is not so great? Emily Gracie spoke to ultra marathon runner and meteorologist Andrew Michael to find out.
For the heat, it's hydration, especially leading up to the event and during it, since you're going to be sweating a lot more. When it's colder, it's those extra layers. So when it does warm up a little bit, you can either take that off. When I do a lot of the trail running, just throw it in my pack, the light jacket or whatnot. And shoe choice is going to differ as well if you're going to be running in something where it's a little slippery, something that has better grip to it.
Do you look at things like dew point when it comes to running?
I'm a profuse sweater, so the dew point means that I'm going to be extra sticky when that is high, the dew point specifically. And when it's lower, I mean, I've done a run in Las Vegas before, and it was 13 miles, and I got done, and my shirt was completely dry. So for all of us here in the Midwest or the East Coast, we're used to that humidity. But if for anybody that coming from outside, maybe you're coming from the West Coast somewhere where it's a little bit more of an arid climate, just be prepared that you're going to be sweating a little bit more than what you normally would if you're coming from a dry climate.
I ran a race once and it was so dry. When I was done, I had salt all over me.
Oh, yeah.
Has it ever happened to you?
All the time. Making sure that you're up on those electrolytes, especially for those longer races, for the marathon distance, especially, and longer, whether that's the Gatorade or whatever they have along the side of the course, making sure that you are not depleting your electrolytes.
How does your body tell you when the weather elements that you're in are not safe and you should stop?
Know what you can do. Know your limits, whether it's the heat. If you don't deal well with the heat, then either scale back or try wearing loose, light-fitting clothing. So that way you can just try to beat the heat as best as possible. The cold's a big one because obviously if you stop moving, if something happens to you, you need to make sure that you can get to a shelter where you can stay warm. Maybe you sprain an ankle, break a bone. I mean, just thinking worst case scenario. When I do my long trail runs and we're out in the middle of those state parks, we have those safety Mylar, like aluminum foil blankets, basically. So if it gets cold enough and we can't keep moving, there's something that we can wrap ourselves in to keep us warmer.
Parts of the United States are preparing for the emergence of cicadas next month. We're talking about tens of billions of the noisy bugs. Meteorologist Sharon Ray looks at where to find the insects and why there may be so many this year.
Well, there are thousands of species of cicadas, but this year there are two broods that are being watched that are expected to emerge. The red brood in Missouri into Illinois in the southeast, and then here, this brood, that emerges anywhere from 13 years to 17 years. This year, they come together. That hasn't happened until since the early 1800s. So they're all going to be coming up out of the ground at the same time or close to it, and that is this spring. What does that mean? Well, the eggs underground continue to develop, and then they become nymphs. They come above the ground, they shed their skin, or the exoskeleton. You'll be seeing a lot of those around, and they emerge. The males start to fly around, making a loud buzz, and they mate, and they lay eggs, and that cycle is done within about 6 weeks. They're gone. When are they going to be here? Experts aren't sure exactly, but it does look like any time from late April. May is looking more likely, and as they emerge, you'll hear them. They are loud, and they'll be flying around. But remember, they're harmless to humans.
All right, have you ever seen this type of cloud? They're called mammatus clouds. It takes a very unique set of atmospheric ingredients for them to form. Meteorologist Evan Chikvera explains.
You'll get these every now and then after storms move through. This is after the rain ended in Chilton County. But they almost look like bubbles. And what you essentially have is you have a turbulent atmosphere. So you have wind going up and down, and that turbulence causes this bubbling look at the base of the clouds. And so you'll get this kind of voluminous view from the surface. Pretty cool shot there again after those storms moved through the other day.
Now to one of the coldest places in the eastern United States, Canaan Valley, West Virginia. It has the climate more like parts of Canada rather than the Appalachian Mountain Range. And it's all due to the valley's unique shape. Meteorologist Brandon Stover has more.
Canaan Valley is a special place. At 3,200 feet above sea level, it's the highest large valley you'll find east of the Mississippi River. This also makes it one of the coldest spots you'll find in the eastern United States.
This area mimics lands similar to that of Canada, given the elevation here.
These rare plants found out of place, along with the animals, are protected here since it's a national wildlife refuge.
You don't see homes in any direction. You don't see other development. So it's really a place where nature is the main, driving factor.
This area heavily depends on recreation and tourism, but the bridge between letting nature be and having fun has worked here for many years.
We want to keep that wild and wonderful character of the property, but still make it to where people can get out and enjoy the property. So, we're working closely with the refuge and their staff to help envision trail connectivity. There's trails that start and end on either end of the new property, so we want to connect those trails.
That protection will also benefit places far from here.
It's a large wetland complex. So the property that we just protected are the headwaters of the Little Blackwater River that join the Blackwater River just downstream. You're maintaining that flood mitigation. You're continuing to have clean drinking water available.
Just get to see a piece of nature that hasn't been impacted by infrastructure or by humans very much.
And before a short break, we take a view of a tulip farm in Rhode Island.
Well, a very good Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. A few scattered showers and storms across the Midwest for the day today, but temperatures running near and above normal for most of the Midwest today. Tomorrow, those thunderstorms build across the plains and continue moving their way east as we head into your Wednesday, as you can see here, with most of the rain by Wednesday, more around the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. Behind that, temperatures do cool off a little bit for the second half of the week, even cooler still by the upcoming weekend.
Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at your forecast across the region. And today we're tracking some strong to severe storms from North Texas into portions of Oklahoma. In particular, that is an enhanced risk along the Red River into areas just to the west of Oklahoma City. So we're watching for an isolated to scattered risk of severe storms this afternoon. All modes of severe weather will be possible. Elsewhere, we're partly to mostly cloudy. Temperatures in the 70s to low 80s for your Monday. Drop back to the 60s and 70s overnight.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Monday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, we're talking about scattered showers hanging on between Idaho and the Four Corners region. That'll cool things down to 48 today in Salt Lake City, but you see the mile-high city still mild at 72 out of Denver. Low 60s in the city by the Bay. We've got this next weather maker, area of low pressure, again pushing from the Treasure Valley into the Wasatch later today. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Did you know just after sunrise, temperatures can actually drop? It all has to do with something called radiational cooling. Meteorologist Taylor Knost explains.
During the daytime, the sun sends heat toward the Earth, and this is known as solar radiation. Earth emits radiation back out, but at a lower rate. The net result is a rise in temperatures. Once the sun sets, the Earth stops receiving solar radiation, but continues to emit radiation away from the surface. As a result, temperatures drop throughout the night. This process is known as radiational cooling, is most effective on clear and calm nights. Now, once the sun rises, the Earth begins to receive that solar radiation again. However, the solar radiation right at sunrise is still weaker than that outgoing radiation, leading to an additional temperature drop. It's not until the sun climbs higher in the sky that solar radiation exceeds the outgoing radiation and temperatures start to climb. Notice that on a typical day, the highest amount of radiation from the sun comes around the middle of the day, but the high temperature doesn't arrive until later in the afternoon. That's because Earth continues to receive more solar radiation than what it is emitting.
Thank you so much for looking in this Monday morning. I'm glad you were able to join me. I'm meteorologist Steve Rudin from WJLA in Washington, D.C. Have a great day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.